The New Orleans Saints going into Carolina, Cleveland going into Pittsburgh, 2 Monday Night Football games. We're going to delve into each of them, tell you exactly how to bet them. Welcome to WagerTalk Today, everybody. Bryan Leonard joining us right off the bat. Bryan, I hope you had a wonderful weekend.
Well, I was doing really well until the Giants game. Luckily, I'd also played them on the money line, so I got extremely lucky there, so I'm not going to complain. But, yeah, I had them as my best play for the weekend and didn't work out well. But other than that, college has been great. College has been terrific. Number 3 on the site now in college football. But other than that, everything else is going well, except for the Giants.
Well, let's talk a little Monday Night Football to open the show. We have a pair of games tonight. We'll break them both down before Wager Talk Today is through. Let's start with the first of the two games, the New Orleans Saints and the Carolina Panthers. Looking at the Wager Talk live odds screen, I'm seeing Saints 3, let's call it minus 120 for the Saints. They are a lot of books. You have to lay extra juice with New Orleans right now. Total sitting, let's call it 39.5. There are a couple of 40s out there, Bryan. What do you want to do with the Saints and the Panthers Monday Night Football?
This is the problem about having to handicap a game day of. You mentioned 40, I only see a couple 40s, mostly 39.5s out there. The correct bet in this game, regardless of how it turns out, was the under 42.5, which was the opener. 41 and 40 are key numbers. So if you can't get those, it's probably too late to play the under here, although it makes a lot of sense to play the under. Is clearly, in my mind, the defenses of both these teams are better than the offenses. There was a stat out last week, rookie quarterbacks playing in their first game, horrendous. Well, it worked out that way for Carolina, and that was a nice play for a lot of people that played those last week. But I think with the extra week here, after getting that feeling of getting out there and playing full speed in a regular season game, I expect a little bit better effort here out of Carolina. They actually didn't play that bad last week. They didn't do much in the offense from passing the ball, and I don't think they'll do much here in that regard either. But you're getting a Carolina team playing on Monday Night Football who doesn't get a lot of opportunities in that regard. So I think the home advantage is a little bit higher here than normally. Normally the NFL has about a 2-point home advantage. I would give Carolina 3 here. Love both the defenses. I do have some concerns about laying points with the Saints on the road. Very familiar with Derek Carr here in Las Vegas. Love the guy. He just plays as hard as he can. He lives and dies by the way he plays. And something that you don't find very often, he takes responsibility when he doesn't play well. We've seen a couple quotes of other quarterbacks over the weekend blaming it on somebody else, but he's never been good. The Raiders were never good with him laying points. I don't like him laying points, especially on the road here. You'd mentioned it's at 320 now. If we get to 3.5, I think that's a buy signal on Carolina. Right now, I'm leaning Carolina in this game. I like the defenses, but unless you can get that 40.5, I'd probably lay off of that too. So what was once a good bet is no longer. But, hey, we'll see how this line goes the rest of the day. Maybe we can get Carolina at plus 3.5. Maybe we can get under 40.5.
Bryan Leonard joining us, everyone. Bryan, quick follow from me, and then Teddy might jump in as well, as these are the two big feature games of the show. You mentioned the under, and conceptually it's the right call. 12 and 2 yesterday to the over. 12 out of 14 games. What was it, Teddy? Less?
11 and 2 yesterday, and then the Thursday night game went over. So it's this week so far.
Right. 12 and 2 to the over this week. Wow, Teddy. I'm so glad you jumped in to fix that massive mistake I made. Egregious mistake. Grouping Thursday into Sunday. Anyway, 12 and 2 to the over. Bryan, do you ever look at something like that? I don't take it into account at all. I find it's like every time you flip a coin, it's a 50-50 chance, no matter how many times heads show up in a row. Do you put any stock in that?
None at all. In fact, if you go back to week 1, it was all unders. So I think that might have had an effect on the totals last week. I didn't go back. I don't make numbers on totals. I only make numbers on sides, so I don't know. But yeah, it's all small sample sizes, and it's you will find that many times people will use 12-1 to the over. I got to play the over here. No, every game is individually different. It's just a streak. You're going to run through streaks all the time. The Oakland A's won 5 to 7 games or something this year. That doesn't mean it's going to happen all the time, but that's just streaks. That's sports.
Well, one streak that's been going on not just this year, but in recent years, a declining NFL home field advantage. You talked about Carolina being at home, and you like the Panthers at home. Home teams went 4-12 against the spread in week 1. I've got them 5-7-2 against the spread in week 2. It's the Thursday night game closed 6, and I'm counting San Fran, LA as a push at 7. That's where it closed, even though most people had the Rams at 7.5 or higher. But we're not seeing, we've had 2 weeks of play and a grand total of 9 home teams have covered point spread so far. We're not seeing anything in the markets that's saying home field advantage is worth more than a point at the most, maybe 1.5 points. What do you make of the current lack of home field success in the NFL? And why did you use Carolina's home field as an example of a home field we might want to support tonight, despite the struggles around the league in terms of the home teams so far?
Yeah, well, the reason why I'm using the Carolinas, it's not a good team, and they're rarely going to be on national TV. They get to play at home this game. The fans will be out there. They'll be exciting. But you go back, for this year, it's a small sample size. I believe the road team has like a 1.7 point advantage so far, and of course, that doesn't work out long range. But you hit on the point. The last few years, it used to be 3 points. You gave everybody 3 points, and that's pretty much if you're just going to do it that way. 3 points was the way to do it. Now it's more like the 1.5 to 2 points, and you can really break everything down. Divisional. I've said for a long time, divisional plays, the home advantage is much smaller because the team plays there every year, and now it's bared out. So usually your divisional play, maybe it's a 1.5, and it's maybe 2.5, maybe 2.5 to 3 on non-divisional games. It all depends on what's going to happen when the game is being played, that kind of thing, the excitement for the game. New Orleans is a team that I'm not sure they're overly excited to play on Monday Night Football in Carolina, but I know Carolina's fans will be there, and we'll see what happens in this one.
Bryan, Leonard. Before we get into the next game, Pedro on the chat, by the way, thank you, Pedro, for joining us. And guys, if you like the content, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. Greatly appreciated. Pedro writes, why did the Rams kick that field goal last night? Teddy's going to talk about that right in the next segment, so stay with us for that, Bri. Teddy and I got together a few weeks ago, and Teddy, Teddy said, who's your favorite guest on WagerTalk Today? Who's the best guest we have on this show? I voted you, Bri. I voted you. Just for the record, you sit at the pinnacle as for guests. Guys, tell us who you like on not in the chat room, and then tell us who you don't like, Marco. Bitch him out. Anyway, Bri, Florida State at Clemson. Clemson plus 1.5 here. How do we bet this game?
Yeah, this is one play that I put up for clients today, so don't pay for this play. It's $9 Monday. Back-to-back road games for the Seminoles, who rested on their laurels last week at Boston College. That almost cost them in a much closer than expected 31-29 victory. Now, obviously, you could say, well, okay, they were starting to worry about Clemson this week after they took that big lead. It very much could be. I wouldn't put that past them. But they've lost 7 straight in this series. In the last 2 visits to Clemson, they've lost by 10 and 31 points. Now, while this isn't the same Clemson team that has dominated over the last decade, they're still a very good program. Clemson's lost 19 combined games the last decade plus. And the earlier defeat to Duke doesn't look nearly as bad as it did at the time. And full transparency, I had Duke. My clients had Duke in that game. I'm a big Duke backer this year, and I was looking to fade Clemson early. That's worked out very well so far. But Clemson 67-3 straight up in Death Valley the last 10-plus seasons. 67-3, and now they're home underdog the team that they have dominated. They never lost more than one home game in any year. I know this isn't the same Clemson team they've had in the past, but this is one of the toughest venues. My wife has been lucky enough to go there. She loves it. We have a niece that went to Clemson. So we've paid very much attention to this Clemson team. I made the Tigers a 3-point favorite here. Currently getting 1.5, 2. Got hit a little bit earlier, a little bit of Clemson money coming in. But to me, I think Clemson's going to go off as the slight favorite in this game. And right now, we're able to catch that key number of 3. Or excuse me, it should be a key number of 3 for Clemson. We're getting them as an underdog here. So I like the money line, and I like the plus 1.5.
So you talked about the recent series history that's all in favor of Clemson, which Clemson's been the better team for the better part of the last decade. Is Clemson the better team this year? The markets are saying not even maybe. And your numbers say that they are. What do you what do you think that discrepancy is?
Well, my numbers say it should be even. I give Clemson a 3-point home advantage here. I probably have Florida State by 1, maybe a half overall. Florida State's the better team. I've got them as the better team slightly, but this is just a tough venue for them to play in, and they haven't had success here. And when this game starts, and Florida State's very excited about playing here, I'm sure they've circled this game. They get in there, and if Clemson gives them hell like they normally do early on, and Clemson falls behind, Florida State falls behind, then the doubts start going into the players' minds. We see that many times. There's other games this weekend that played out that way. So
Yeah.
If you've got a team that knows you've struggled in a place, if you don't get off to a quick start, I don't like their chances. So this may be even a better play live if Clemson gets off to a nice start here. Then you can get better numbers on Clemson. So we'll see how it goes.
Awesome stuff. Alan Smetana writes, I love Teddy and Bryan. I hate Lawrence. Some big words, Teddy.
Teddy
What
and
have
I
I
agree
ever
with
done?
them. Totally.
Yeah. Hate. Hate is the adjective that he chooses. He doesn't dislike me. He wishes ill will on me. Hate. He absolutely hates me. I get it, man. Okay. I'm guessing he's 12. A girl hate? Like hate? It's $9 Mondays, everybody. Bryan, we got another question for you, but on $9 Mondays, what do you have to promote?
As I said, I've got this I'm already worried about hockey. I've got this college football game going next Saturday. You don't have to pay for it. I do have 2 plays in baseball today. One of them is the early game, which starts at 11 Pacific. So we got like an hour and a half to get that one. But baseball's been great. Number 2 in ROI on the season, number 3 in profit in baseball. You know, I've noticed by sales, people aren't paying much attention to baseball. And to be totally honest with you, this is the best time to play baseball because everybody's paying all the attention to football. You get great numbers in baseball at the end of the season, especially if you're an underdog player like I am. So a lot of good bets in baseball. Don't pass these up.
There you go. Bryan, you wrote in the Slack channel that you had a BS question. We're going to address it right now. So Teddy didn't even know we were doing this, but it's now time for betting strategy with Teddy and the Prez. So one of my absolute favorite guest on WagerTalk Today wrote a question. When you guys have games you left off your card, do you root for or against those plays? Genius freaking question. And I'm going to give you my answer quick first, and then we'll go to Teddy and you. The answer is both. I for sure bet I cheer against them because it upsets me so greatly when I leave plays off my card for my clients that win. So I'm cheering against them. But then I remind myself, wait, I want to be right. I want to feel good about going into next week. I want to feel like I got a handle on these teams. So then I cheer for them. And that sort of dichotomy, that paradox, that oxymoron, that is what takes me through those games. Go, don't go, don't go. It's a real freaking riddle wrapped in an enigma that I have not been able to solve. Teddy?
Yeah, that's a great question. Who said that name? Bryan Leonard? Good question.
Yeah.
For me, I definitely want to be in rhythm. You know, I pay a lot of attention. I call it my short
Right.
list. You know, the card comes out. and I'll narrow the card down into the games I'm focused on, the sides or totals that I'm focused on, and I track my short list every week: win, lose, draw, and then the decisions from the short list as to what become the client plays, what become the personal bets that aren't client plays, what become what games end up getting passed. That's the second part of the decision-making process after you get to the short list. So in general, I want my short list plays to win. That means I'm in good rhythm. I'm seeing things clearly. And if this is a game that I left off the card, I might be frustrated that I left it off, but I'd rather get the W and say, hey, you're seeing things pretty clearly, than have your short list be a disaster and, you're trying to pick out the 3 winners compared to however many losers. Much rather have a good short list. So I'm rooting for those plays to make a short answer long. Brian,
why don't you answer your own question?
The reason why I brought this up, and Marco's on the line there, he's the next guest up. Marco and I go out and watch a lot of games together, and he cracks me up. He says, I was just about to use that. I hope it loses.
Mic drop right there, bro.
And I said, what do you mean you hope it loses? I want to win every game I thought was the right side. If I go 0-3 for clients and there's 6 plays that I also bet, but I didn't give to clients, I don't feel as bad. Obviously I want to win for the clients, but instead of going 0-3, I'm 0-3, I said, well, I could go into it and say, you know what? I was 6-3 and I picked the wrong 3 out of the group. I go in with a fresher attitude the next week. Obviously the clients aren't going to be happy if you go 0-3, but from a mental standpoint, I know how much losing hurts all of us. It hurts worse to lose for clients than it does for ourselves. So I always want to win as many games as possible. And just like Teddy said, if I go 0-3 on my regular plays, 6-0 on the others, I feel better, even though my clients had lost and I lost those plays. I want to win every game I release.
There we go, Bryan Leonard, everyone. Outstanding work, Bryan. Thank you so much for joining us. What a show we've got planned. Teddy's big 6 Bs are coming up. He's got his big game breakdown as well. Marco D'Angelo joining us. He's talking Army at Syracuse, Texas Tech at West Virginia, and Ronald Cabang to end the show. And Ronald is just on fire, Teddy. Browns versus Steelers, and he's got a WNBA play for us as well. My brother, everybody loves this segment. It's time for your 6 Bs. I'll sit back, relax, and then I want to talk Survivor afterwards.
Sure, let's talk about it. Monday morning, you know what we do right here on WagerTalk Today. A little recap of what just happened this past weekend. I call it bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the book. 6 Bs, B. Let's start with the bad beats. And look, on Saturday, if you had Western Michigan plus 28.5 against Iowa, that was no fun. That being said, we kind of know already what Iowa's game plan is going to be. The offense coordinator is the head coach's son. They have to average 25 points per game this season, or the coach's son is going to get fired. What happens? 30 seconds left. They punch in another touchdown to cover the point spread. That's a danger in stepping in front of Iowa right now. Western Michigan backers found that out the hard way. I don't use money line plays very often, but in terms of bad beats. But man, if you had Vandy on the money line right here in Vegas on Saturday night, that was as brutal as it gets. They can't lose. They're either going to go into overtime or win the game. Oops, they found a way to lose it in regulation. Oh, Vandy money line was brutal. Late Saturday night, UNLV gets the money. Lawrence, you talked about this. I had Bears +3 in my pocket. If you had the under in that game, it was equally as bad. If you had Chicago on a teaser, it was just as bad. Not that the Bears were the right side. All right. But they were live, and it's 20-17. It's a 3-point game. Chicago's got the ball. Chance to drive down and win. Instead, Justin Fields throws the pick 6 right by the goal line. Unders get burned. Bears get burned. Teasers get burned. That was no fun at all. And I don't know. I mean, the Falcons-Packers first half total. 19.5, 19. Atlanta scores a touchdown to get the 10-9. So you've pushed on the 19, and then they mix the extra point 10-9 at halftime. That's no fun at all. Broncos are up 21-3 and driving before halftime. Nope, that was pretty tough if you have Denver. And of course, at the end of the game, they connect on the Hail Mary, but the 2-point conversion, no good. They could, in theory, have covered in overtime, much like Detroit. But of all the beats, the one that everybody's talking about today, the Rams kicking a field goal. Again, this is a Rams team that was +8, +7.5. The closing number was 7, so it's going to get greater as a push in the databases. But most bettors at the Rams +7.5 or the 49ers -7.5 or higher. So San Fran's up 10. Rams are moving the ball down the field. They have 4 seconds left, and they kick a field goal on 2nd and 10 to lose by only 7. It was a bad result for the books. They opened 6.5, bet up to 8, then back down to 7. Every bet on that game either won or pushed. The Rams could have kicked a field goal with more than 20 seconds left and gone for the onside kick, then the Hail Mary, and they didn't, which was odd. That said, points are a division tiebreaker, and getting those 3 points at the end of the year may make a difference. It certainly made a difference to the spread for that ball game. Tough beat if you had San Fran. No fun there. When it comes to bad bets, they bet up Alabama, -31 up to -34.5. Can't cover 34.5 when you only score 17. Bama, wrong side. That was a bad bet. Michigan got bet up to -40 against Bowling Green. Another lackluster ball game. Wolverines never sniffed a cover. They bet Northwestern against Duke. Down to 17. Duke wins the game by 24. Colorado got bet up to -23.5 against Colorado State. They need double overtime to win that game. Kansas bet up to 28.5 at Nevada. That was the wrong side. And of course, yesterday in the NFL, the Raiders +7 down to +10 down to +7.5 at Buffalo. They got blown out in that ball game. And there was Bengals money. The Ravens are missing 5 starters, or was it 6? Didn't matter. The Bengals lost the game straight up. When it comes for bad for the books, Saturday, look, all the money was on BYU at Arkansas. They won straight up, +10.5 down to +7.5. Razorbacks go down. Miami O, talked about it on the show last week, +17 to +14 at Cincinnati. That was a wise guy special. Miami won outright. Oklahoma took money up to -28.5 against Tulsa. They won that game 66-17. Bad for the books. Let's see. The Pros and Joes both on Kansas City yesterday against Jacksonville. The overs go 12-2, 12-1 in the early games. And Miami winning and covering late. That was not a great result for the house at all. All the Joes on Miami last night. If you're a book that caters to the public, you got beat up pretty good on Sunday Night Football. There you have it, Lawrence. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Back to you, my friend.
Great segment, Teddy. So I took Buffalo in the Survivor. Worked out perfectly well. And I have 2 Survivor tickets. Vivian does the second one, and she took the New York Giants. Carm took the Denver Broncos. So the New York Giants were the second most picked team yesterday. Denver was highly picked, and so were the Detroit Lions. The amount of drama that went down in my house on that New York Giants Survivor game was off the freaking charts. We had all the kids screaming at the TV. Everybody was going mad. And I just wanted to say, for all the bad beats and all the great bets and all this and all that, I don't think there was any more drama at what I call the 59, because that's the number of my house, than that New York Giants game. My God, Teddy. I mean, talk about a tale of 2 halves. Do you know that statistically, Jones, Daniel, whatever, put one of the best halves in history of the NFL up?
Sure. I watched it.
Yeah, unbelievable. Let's bring in Marco. And before we get into it, Marco, I just want you to say that Teddy and I spoke a couple of weeks ago, and we had to rank our guests. I chose you as my favorite guest of all time. Just wanted to get that out there. Anyway, I chose you as one of my favorite guests of all time. So I just wanted, the favorite, number one, all time. Okay. What do we got going here? Army and Syracuse. Who's going to win?
Well, guys, when I come in here on Mondays and we're talking about college football for the upcoming week, my process when I do these games is first I look for situational plays. You know that I love that in college football. And oftentimes it's going to bring up some ugly looking teams, just like we did last week when we came up with Ohio U against Iowa State. We were talking about the spot that Iowa State was in. Well, I'm going to do the same thing here with Army and Syracuse. You got Syracuse, who is 3-0 on the season so far. They've won by a combined score of 148-27. So why would I look to get in front of a team like that? Well, look at who they played. The first two games, they played a cupcake in Colgate. Then they played a MAC conference team, Western Michigan, in the second game. But I'm looking at the third game. That third game, they went on the road. That was their first test. There was a -1, pick the winner game, and another Power 5 conference. Granted, Purdue is not on the top half of the Big Ten this year, but it's still, you're stepping up in class going on the road to play at Purdue. They get the win 35-20. Now they're returning home. Look at who they play next week. They play Clemson. All right, so this is what I would refer to as a sandwich spot. It'll be one of the games that'll be in the running for my sandwich game on Bet On It that we do every week. And if you look, it's tough when you've got a situation from Purdue and Clemson next week. That in itself would line me up to fade Syracuse. But look at the opponent. It's Army. Yeah, I know Army can get dominated, but this is one of those teams that will run the football down your throat with the option. The Armies, the Navies, the Air Forces, they are tough to prepare for when you don't play them every year, which is the case with Syracuse. I am going to go ahead and look at Army, plus the points here. One of the things about a team that can run the football with the rule change this year, they shorten the game. When they're grinding out drives and getting first downs and moving the chains, clock's not stopping anymore on those first downs. Give me Army plus the points. This is a situational spot. Syracuse escapes with the win, but 13.5 is too many points in my opinion. We're doing this on Monday. I'm going to tell you, pump the brakes. Wait to see where this line goes during the week. If it goes to 13, we didn't lose it that much with that half a point. But if it goes to 14, we definitely gained a key number. So I would hold off to see which way this goes, but I will say grab Army plus the points.
So one thing that stands out about Syracuse this year is how fast they're playing. And they're running a ton of plays, 72 in the game against Purdue. And that blur offense, sometimes against teams that lack defensive depth, like, Army, can wear them down in the second half. Does that worry you here? Because that's my biggest concern about the Army side. From a fundamental standpoint, it makes sense, a ton of sense. From a spot standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. I worry about the matchup, though. I think Syracuse might break off some big plays against Army if they push pace, and I think they might do that. Does that worry you at all, Marco?
Obviously, being a team that goes fast and can throw the football as well, if Army falls behind, that's the problem with a team that runs the football. That presents a big problem. I agree with you. But with Clemson on deck, Teddy, how much of the playbook do you want to expose this week? And if you do get a lead, you can be pulling people out looking ahead to next week. That's my thing, and I think it negates that concern that you have, which is legitimate. But my concern is you got Clemson next week. We're not going to run our best plays this week. We're going to keep some stuff for next week that I'm sure they haven't used yet.
Marco D'Angelo joining us, everyone, co-founder of WagerTalk.com and all of its sub-companies, Sports Memo, and the Gold Sheet. I hope a lot of people took advantage of our free Gold Sheet offer this past week. Anyway, Marco, Texas Tech, they're still piss me off, man. That loss from 2. I still think about that loss from last Saturday. They're playing West Virginia. They're -4.5. That's what I'm. Go ahead. Go ahead, Marco. Take it over. I don't want to talk about this game.
Well, being that I am your favorite guest on the show
of all time,
that's why I
of all
picked this
time.
game. That's why I picked this game. I want to hear you bet this game. I love nothing better than to hear you, because it's just not the same getting 85 texts about a bad beat. I like to hear it live and in person. I was on that same game, so I know, okay? What we're talking about, again, we're looking at a spot here. And for most people, Pitt, West Virginia means absolutely nothing on the college landscape to them. But to Pitt and West Virginia, who played this past Saturday night, that is as big as Michigan and Ohio State. The only problem is, prior to last year, that rivalry had not been played since 2011. Thank you, the new landscape of college football, where you have conference realignments, people going all over the place, and you have no more rivalries. This was a home-and-home series last year in Pitt, which Pitt won in dramatic fashion, and now this year they returned to favor playing in West Virginia. That makes this a big game. What makes it an even bigger game is this game was Saturday night. West Virginia doesn't play many games in Saturday night, let alone play a game on a Saturday night on national TV. ABC carried the game for the Backyard Brawl. It was a war. It was a physical game. Both quarterbacks got knocked out of the game. West Virginia's starting quarterback never returned in the game, and they ended up only throwing the football 11 times during the game. Off of the big win last week, I just think this is a flat spot for West Virginia, and it's a fundamental matchup nightmare for them. Pitt is a pedestrian team, and they can't stretch the field with the passing game. That is the complete opposite of Texas Tech. Texas Tech can throw the football all around the field, and when they get separation, it's going to force West Virginia to go out of their comfort zone and try to throw the football to get back in the game. Well, it's going to get worse with mistakes. I like the Texas Tech side here. Yeah, you generally don't want to lay points on the road with a team that plays defense as bad as Texas Tech does, but we know what this offense can do. We saw it in the Oregon game. I think you see Texas Tech, they had what I like to call their buffer game last week, because I never like to take a team off of a gut-wrenching loss like Texas Tech had against Oregon, but they had that buffer game. They beat up on Tarleton State last week, 41-3, just, basically a scrimmage. They'll show their fire this week, and West Virginia already has gotten torched in the passing game when they played Penn State earlier. They've only scored 15 against Penn State and 17 against Pitt. In that one game, the one touchdown against Pitt, they started at the 7-yard line, a 7-yard drive. Take Texas Tech and lay the points.
There we go. Marco D'Angelo. It's $9 Mondays, everybody. Marco is on an 11-4 run in his baseball plays. He's got a 4% MLB Monday Massacre. I love the names. Awesome dude. Marco D'Angelo, everyone. Teddy, we got 12 minutes because you got a hard stop, and I'm excited to squeeze this all in. Before we get to your big game breakdown, dude, because, we have more stuff to talk about. Today is the last day of my promo, and we've had some clients take advantage of it, and I really appreciate that. Basically, long story short, since October 1st of last year, which is close to a full calendar year, I'm the number one handicapper at WagerTalk in net profit gained for my clients across all sports. That's number one. And you can get the rest of my year all the way to January 1st for just about half price. The regular price is $1,047. You can get it for $499. That's every sport, every play until January 1st. No promo code needed. Head to my page. Last day of the promo. Under $5 a day. This is how you buy handicappers. Teddy covers. It's time for your big game breakdown. Then Ronald Cabang.
Let's do it. Big game breakdown time. And I know this is a game you guys are interested in because we've been interested in every Colorado game so far this season. Oregon, minus 21 against Colorado. Total, it was 72s. Now I'm seeing some 71s out there. Let's call it a split line on a Monday morning. And look, make no mistake about it. This has been a one-sided series in recent years. Last year was 49-10 in Boulder. The Ducks were minus 31, and they covered. Although they were only plus 112 yards to win that game by 39 points. plus 3 turnovers certainly factored into that. In 2021, it was 52-29. The previous meeting before that, 45-3. Colorado has shown no ability to shut down Oregon. I don't think that changes necessarily here. Certainly not with Travis Hunter out for the Buffs. I would expect the Ducks to be able to move the football up and down the field. Look, this team scored 87 on opening day. They had the pick 6 heard around the world against Texas Tech, so they have stepped up in class before already this season. Then they hung 55 on Hawaii last week. Bo Nix so far this season, 77% completions, 9.1 yards per pass attempt, 8 touchdowns, no picks. And by the way, Oregon averaging 7.2 yards per rush, including sacks, which count against your rushing yards in college football. Oregon's going to move the ball against Colorado. All right. The question is, Colorado going to move the ball against Oregon? Well, let's see. They hung 45 against TCU. They hung 36 against Nebraska. They hung 43 last week, only 28 in regulation against Colorado State. But Shedeur Sanders, his numbers are every bit as good as Nix's. 79% completions. Better than Nix. 9.2 yards per pass attempt. A 10-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. All right. Buffs can't run the football. All right. They're 129th in rushing. All right. They're averaging less than 2 yards per carry,
Right.
although the running back 66 for 254. But they're also 125th defensively in yards allowed. Okay? So if you can't run and you can't defend, you're going to chuck the football around all day. And that's what I expect Colorado to do. I think Oregon's going to get theirs. I think the Buffs get enough. Look at the over between Colorado and Oregon. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Teddy, you ask Bill Parcells who the greatest coach in his era was, he might say Bill Walsh or Joe Gibbs. You ask Bill Belichick, he might say whoever. You ask Deion Sanders that question, he wouldn't pick Nick Saban. Nope. Easy answer, Kirby Smart, Dabo. Nope. He picked himself. Go Oregon. Ronald Cabang joining us, everyone. How are you, Ronald? And before we get into it, I want to say Teddy and I met a couple of weeks ago. We talked about who my favorite guests are that come on the show. I voted you, Ron. I think you're sensational. You made my number one guest on the show status. So congratulations.
I had a feeling
on
you were
that.
going to say that. I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Okay, let's get into it, brother. We got another game tonight. The Browns and the Steelers. Steelers are +2. Another very low total, 38.5. How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, this one's obviously the Browns coming off of that strong effort against the Bengals there. A lot of it came from the defensive side of the ball. 24-3 in that game, but to me, offensively, I wasn't really that impressed by them. Obviously, Watson had some bad throws. Weather conditions could have played a part in that, though. I'm expecting the Browns to really, focus on the ground game there. They will be missing Tyler Conklin on the right side there as a tackle. He's going to miss a few games there, but Dewan Johnson, I feel like he's a really decent replacement. The thing is, though, he is a better pass blocker, in my opinion, than a run blocker. So one thing that we may see from this Browns team is Chubb go up the middle instead of the outside, which aligns with sort of a low-scoring type game here. On the Pittsburgh side, the Steelers had a terrible week 1, lost 30-7 to the 49ers. Offensively, I think they're looking to bounce back, obviously, in some type of way here. The Steelers' offense has some potential as far as, dynamic plays and things like that, but they just really need to find some type of rhythm. They did not find that at all last week against the Niners defense. The Browns, they looked great against Burrow and the Bengals, so if they have that same type of, intensity going into this one, Steelers are going to have a tough time scoring once again. On the defensive side of the ball, Browns defense was a star week 1, like I mentioned earlier. Against the Bengals, they held them to just 157 total yards, just 3 points. They'll look to continue that momentum against the Steelers here. And on the Steelers side, they had a tough time against the 49ers, gave up 30 points. They did, however, get 3 sacks out of TJ Watt. They're going to need to do a lot better, though, in my opinion, especially on the ground. I'm expecting, like I said, the Browns to really control time of possession, especially through the run game here. This means the Steelers are going to possibly get tired in the second half, and that's where the Browns kind of take over this game here. I know people are going to bring up a lot of trends in this game because there are some significant ones towards the Steelers side. 29-4 straight up against the Browns in Pittsburgh. The problem is that goes back to 1989, and this is not the same teams we're seeing today in this game. Steelers 20-4 straight up on Monday Night Football under Mike Tomlin. But the other thing is Steelers have lost and failed to cover in the last few games here as home dogs. in this situation. And the Browns have gone under in 5 straight road favorite situations under Stefanski. So their defense really shows up in these types of situations here. My prediction here, I think it's going to be a slow start from both teams, really trying to focus on establishing the run and the time of possession. So a low scoring type game here, but I'm expecting the Browns to get the win. 21-17 is my model projection. I feel really, pretty confident about that one.
So you like Cleveland to get the win and the game to stay under the total. Is Cleveland the stronger of the two? I got follow-ups either way. I mean, just total-wise, the total, the follow-ups in my head on the total, and I didn't know which way you were going, side or total for this one. But this is a total open. I mean, I'm just looking circa right here. It was 43, then it was 42, then it was 41.5, then it was 41, then it was 40, then it was 39.5, then it was 39, now it's 38.5. Have we missed it on the under? Can you still play under now if you haven't played it yet?
No, I mean, to me, I think it's come to that point where I think Bryan mentioned it too. It's come across a few key numbers here, same as the Panthers game. And that's one thing that you really want to kind of avoid, especially when betting these primetime games, is missing these key numbers and getting the worst of the number, in my opinion. So for me, on the totals aspect of it, I do like the Brown side a little bit more than the total. I would lean towards the under, but the thing is, both of these offenses have the ability to create these defenses have the ability to create turnovers and create short fields, meaning there could be more points, and it only takes unsuspected touchdown to get this over. So for me, I would stay away from the side. I don't want to take the worst number and focus more so on the side here.
Ronald Cabang, everybody. Listen to these numbers. In his last 30 days of releasing plays to clients, Ron has made his clients 77 units of profit. That is an amazing feat. 62% win percentage. That's 80 wins and 49 losses. These are big numbers. You're clearly seeing everything you do well. We do have a promo for everybody, like always. And listen, for the 5 people that bitch us out for the promos, no problem. We'll stop doing them. We'll run out of money and we'll take the show off the air. And Teddy and I will do it in our washroom on our own phone or through a walkie-talkie. Anyway, 3-day pass, $55. Use the promo code BANG3. That's a dream that Teddy's always had. So please use the promo code BANG3. $55. Teddy, which 3 did you want to bang?
I think 2 is probably my limit, Lawrence.
At this age, 2 is too many. Like Dan is in the back going, 7. I want to bang 7. Dan, we were all in our 20s once, bro. I don't think Teddy could handle 3. You're right, Teddy. It's a very good point.
Not a chance.
I choose Samantha. Okay, Ronald, let's get into WNBA. What an appropriate segue. Oh boy, the woke police are calling. Hi. Anyway, who's winning between the Dream and the Wings? The Dreams versus the Wings.
This one is tomorrow. It's the game 2 of their playoff series there. Dreams, pretty much their offense has been running through Ryan Howard, who's been their standout player all season long. Huge 36-point game in game 1. Alicia Gray stepped up as well, 21.7 rebounds. Cheyenne Parker nearly had a double-double, so their top 3 did their job. It's a matter of their depth, though. They've been struggling with depth all season long. They've really been focusing on the top 3. And when it comes to the playoffs, you really need that depth, which the Wings have and the Dream don't. They're going to need someone like Ari McDonald or even Asia Durr, who didn't have a lot of playing time in game 1. She should be able to step up. But the problem is those 2 are point guards, and they've been struggling with size against the Dallas Wings all season long. Dallas dominated the paint in game 1, scoring 48 points in the paint versus 24 for the Dream. Arike scored 24. Satu scored 32 in that game as well. And the big difference maker there, especially in the second half, Tierra McCowan, her presence was made in the second half there. She had a huge double-double, 17 points, 14 rebounds. From a trend perspective, a few reasons why I like the Wings to close out this series tomorrow. Wings have pretty much dominated the series all season long, 4-0 straight up and against the spread, averaging more than 9 points per game, more than the Dream, and winning by an average of points of 12 points per game. Wings also 8-1 straight up against the spread, 8-1 straight up, and against the spread when facing a team they've already beaten at home. And it just seems to show that they continue dominating teams that they clearly have an advantage over. So I think the Wings control this game from the tip off. The Dream will, obviously they're going to put up a fight, but they're really going to focus on the 3 ball. And if that does not drop, it's going to be a terrible game for them.
Yeah.
So for me, my model is projecting 91-82 type game. The Wings should be able to get it done tomorrow.
Awesome stuff. Ronald Cabang, everyone, make sure to take advantage of how hot he is right now. Bang 3, $55 for 3-day all access. Ronald, absolutely outstanding stuff. Teddy, you got the opening line report coming up in only 15 minutes. I have bets on both games tonight, plus some prop bets going up shortly. It's only $9. Head over to WagerTalk and grab that. I had a winning day for my clients yesterday. My brother, lots of love. We'll see you tomorrow. Kick ass on the opening line report and take us home.
Yeah, more than 15,000 views for the opening line report last week. We're looking for 20 this week, so stay tuned right here on the WagerTalk TV YouTube channel. Lawrence and I will be back again tomorrow, same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east, with another edition of WagerTalk Today. Between now and then, enjoy the games and best of luck with all your wagers.